Your client has a weight loss plateau and is losing motivation. What can you do and what can you say? That's the topic of this video. If you like videos on motivation interviewing, on coaching, and on working with potentially difficult clients, make sure that you subscribe to always get the newest videos. Your client has plateaued. Before we can talk about the steps and the talking points, let's get first clear what it means to have plateaued. What you can see here is a wonderful infographic from Precision Nutrition, and I will link the article in the description below. And you can see that progress is not linear. And everyone who has successfully lost weight knows that weight goes up and down all the time. So what is normal progress and what is not normal progress? And after how much time do we have a plateau, a moment where we don't have any weight loss anymore? So the first step we have to talk about is what are normal or expected weight loss rates. When you're working with relatively new clients that don't have a lot of experience of successfully losing weight, you probably aim for a rather easy weight loss, something around 0.5% of body weight. That's quite comfortable. From there, you have more ambitious goals. That's often for clients that maybe regularly lose weight or are very athletic or very much into fitness. And then you have extreme weight loss, up to 1.5% body weight. These are so-called mini cuts, so where you have a very short time frame of maybe 4 to 5 weeks at most, where you try to really slim down as much as you can to immediately follow up with muscle gain, with a muscle gain diet. When we talk about a weight loss plateau, this means we have progress that is considerably less than 0.5%. That means we have to look at different time frames to decide, do we actually have a plateau or is it just a normal up and down? Personally, I look at 2 weeks when I'm working with very advanced clients, and these clients are highly consistent, really competitive, and most of the time have a deadline. They have to be in a certain shape at a certain time. Think about physique athletes. Most clients don't have a deadline. So I look at least 4 weeks of no progress. That means 4 weeks of 0.5% body weight loss or less over a 4-week period. So that's very important because there are a number of things that can hide true weight loss. So we need time to actually see the trends. So when we're talking about a plateau, we have to consider the context first. The duration, we already talked about that. For how long has the weight stayed the same? If you have a client that has worked on their plan for a week and they step on their scale and the weight is the same, you have no idea if it is plateau. You cannot expect to drop weight within 1 week. Even 2 weeks for most people is too short of a time frame to decide if the weight loss actually has stopped. So 4 weeks usually is the minimum that I look for before I decide, oh, weight loss has stopped for this client. The next part we have to talk about is consistency, because weight will not drop if the client is not consistently following the plan. And it's the main variable, as we will talk about. If you have no idea how consistent your client is, you have no base to make a coaching decision. Then the steps you take when you actually decided, oh, my client has plateaued, depends very much on your client's skill level. So if they're very advanced and have a lot of experience, you can work with different techniques than if you have a general pop client that just wants to lose a little bit of weight. And there are other things like the monthly cycle where weight retention can mask fat loss. These are things that we have to consider as well when we talk about a client that has plateaued potentially. So these are the scenarios that we will look at. We will look at low consistency. So when a client has no results and hasn't followed the plan really, then we will look at high consistency. We look at clients that had no results but followed the plan very consistently, while also keeping in mind different factors like deadlines or long times in a calorie deficit and how these affect our decisions. And throughout, we will also talk about ways to talk with your client about these scenarios and about next actions. So that's important to me. It's not just the mechanics of what coaching steps to take, but also your talking points. How can you explain to your client what you're going to do and why this is important? Low consistency clients. They haven't really followed the plan, and big surprise, they haven't lost weight. What are our goals here? What are our next steps? Our next steps are to build up their consistency. Because as you all know, if they don't follow the plan, you have no idea if the plan is working or not. You continue to build the essential skills for weight loss. It's not just food intake, it's also purposeful movement, recovery, stress, it all plays together. And when you have built up their consistency, then after 4 more weeks, you would assess, we still have no progress. But of course, this already creates potentially tension in you. Oh, 4 weeks, that's such a long time. How do I talk about it? You wouldn't talk about, oh, let's wait for 4 weeks, really. You would use your coaching pointers and your coaching decisions to progress with the plan. So, for example, you can manipulate and change their daily practices, their food intake, their purposeful movement, their recovery strategies to make sure that they are at least 90% sure that they can actually do it. Because that right now is the biggest problem. They're not doing it. You can also work on resolving ambivalence. Anything that keeps the client between two chairs. They want one thing, the ice cream, and they want the weight loss. And I link a video here and also in the description below where I talk about ways to resolve ambivalence. You can consider on your own and with your client the stage of change they're in. Maybe they're not yet ready to take physical action steps, but they're making different decisions, they have a different attitude toward weight loss. All these changes that happen internally can also be considered as change. And I have a video here and also in the description below where I talk about how you can coach a client through the different stages of change. And the last part, something that I see all the time when I'm talking with other coaches, is make sure that your client knows 100% what to do, when to do it, how often to do it, how to do it, how success looks like, how to track their progress, everything. They have to leave the session without needing to make a single thought anymore about how they're actually going to implement their next action. This is the level of precision that you need after a session. The client has thought about every single thing already. So all they have to do is taking action. And how you can do it is explained in this video here and also in the description below. Your client works towards a goal and then the weight didn't drop or the results don't come anymore. And frustration at this point is very, very normal. Think about it. You put in effort, at least from your perspective, you put in effort, so you expect a reward, but you don't get the reward. So the world, in a way, doesn't work the way you thought it would be. And that's super frustrating because You think you get something and then you don't get it. That's unfair. And essentially what they're hearing is, oh, your efforts are not good enough. And it's not you that's saying that, that's their body, reality, the world, whatever it is. It's frustrating because they put effort forward and somebody, something said it's not good enough. What you have done doesn't lead to the results that you want. The question is, are they going to step up? Do they use this feedback as a way to step up their game, or do they quit? And that's really important. Our goal is not to prevent our clients from feeling frustrated. That's not what we can do. Our goal is our clients will be frustrated, they will be defeated, but it's not so terrible that they quit. And instead, we redirect their focus. We use the pain and the frustration to direct them to a more productive work, to focus on what they can do. That's very important to understand. You cannot prevent the frustration, but you can help them not to be so devastated that they quit, and instead they step up their game. They work on their consistency, they work on maybe recovery, they work on purposeful movement. So they take the pain and the frustration and turn it into something productive. And the key here for you is that you respond with compassion, that feeling frustrated is normal. You have to understand, they essentially get the idea that something rejected their efforts. What I've done is not good enough. So your response has to be, hey, this is normal. Everyone goes through this. Make sure that they don't feel isolated and broken. Instead, make them feel normal. If they have the feeling that everyone goes through this and it's normal and it's part of the process, they're so much more willing or probable to actually continue with the process. So that's very important. Don't try to take their frustration away. It's very easy to be positive and cheer them up and, oh, it's not that bad. Allow them to feel the frustration, allow them to process it, and then guide them, focus their thoughts on taking action, on finding solutions. That's the goal here. As I said, you cannot prevent that your client will feel frustrated, but you can work towards the point that they're not so frustrated that they quit, and instead they refocus their energy to step up their game, to work on consistency, to work on different things. And here are a couple of ways how you can reframe this challenge that your client is currently going through. At least for my clients, one of the most helpful mindsets is there are no sunken costs. They haven't wasted 2 weeks, 4 weeks, or whatever it is on nothing. They have progressed with their habits. They have progressed with their eating. They are so much closer to making progress. So instead of saying, oh, I'm still so far away, make sure that they understand they are already halfway or 70% on the way. And now it's just a tiny bit more to actually create the progress that they need. So there's no wasted time. They have made progress. And now it's just a tiny bit more towards actually getting results. The next part that's super easy to feel for clients, and you have noticed it yourself, probably, they feel like a failure. What they've put forward is not good enough, so they've failed. But it's actually not failure, it's feedback. Their bodies are telling them, you're not into this process enough, you're not putting enough effort into it to get the results that you want. It's a feedback. It's not, you're not good enough, it's your effort is not where it needs to be. So This is something that the body tells them as feedback and informs the coaching process. They are not failure. It's just that something that they're doing, that they have in control, is not there yet. It's very important. It's not something completely, entirely to the person. It's something they have control over. The effort is not there yet. Then, as I mentioned before, everyone has setbacks. And it's very helpful to explore with the client times where they had defeats in the past and then they came back stronger after the defeat. Maybe it was when they were playing a sport with something else, a hobby that they're invested into. Maybe it's a relationship, something from work. We all had our setbacks. And when we didn't quit and pushed through, we came stronger. We came back stronger than before. And the interesting question then is, how did they do it? Explore with them past setbacks and follow-up successes to find ways what they need and what is working for them to come out of this process stronger than before. Discuss with them their roles and their areas of control. Unfortunately, we cannot control specifically how our bodies respond, but we can control our efforts. So if a little bit of effort doesn't lead to a lot of results, then we can increase our efforts to get more results. It's not that we focus so much on our bodies, wishful thinking, lose weight. We have to focus on what we can control. And that's very important when your client is sitting there and losing motivation, that you take this pain, this frustration, this feeling of defeat, and turn it towards something that they can control. They can control their effort. And if they improve their effort, they will get the results. It's just not clear how much effort is required to get the results. And the last part that I like to talk about with my clients as well is the idea of you already paid the price for the lesson. You already invested your efforts to learn how much is required to make progress. So don't quit. Don't stay in this frustration of being, I didn't get the results that I wanted. And instead, take the lesson and learn from it and improve and grow. Because if you quit now, you've paid the price for the lesson, but you didn't learn anything. And that connects with the idea of there are no sunken costs. Whatever they do is an investment towards making progress, always. It doesn't always create the results that they want immediately, but it always gets them closer. That's a really important point. Another helpful reframe in this time is the idea of practice and maintenance. So your client comes back and their weight hasn't really changed. So you have to wait a little bit to see, is my weight progressing? While you can refocus on other things like more purposeful movement, consistency, and other things, the idea of practice and maintenance is you're not just waiting, you're giving this time where you see, is my weight moving or not, a purpose. And the purpose is that you're already training for the time after the weight loss. And that's crucial. Most clients can lose weight, but then they regain it again. If you reframe this time where you don't know, am I losing weight, am I not losing weight? If you reframe it as a period of, oh, we are practicing how we are going to keep the weight low or keep the weight where we want it to be, that's super crucial, because it's not just I'm wasting time waiting, yada, yada, yada. It's again, you're investing into the future. You're investing into the idea of, oh, at some point I will have reached my goal, and then I already have experienced what it will feel like, when I keep the same weight over a long period of time. Another important point during these conversations is that you use the change talk. So when you have these conversations and you talk about their past experiences, how they had setbacks and came back stronger, they will talk about things that they have done or that they've used, and you highlight and emphasize them. You essentially build this part of themselves up through your reflections, through your affirmations. So they feel stronger. They feel that they are empowered by the things that they can do. And also, when you share the reframes that I've shared in the past, they will respond to them in a way. And while they respond, listen and listen for everything that favors movement towards more consistency, to pushing through, to seeing this as an opportunity. If you want to see how to respond to change talk and how to recognize change talk, check out this video here, where I explain specifically what change talk is, how to recognize it, and how to respond to it. But super crucial, when you have these conversations about the reframes, about past experiences, listen for everything that they say that favors moving towards growth, using this as an opportunity. And then you strengthen and build this up through reflections, through affirmations, and the other ways of building their commitment. We talked about the idea of control, but I want to emphasize this a little bit more. Frustration for a good chunk comes from the realization that we don't have control over something. Because if we notice we don't have control about something, that causes anxiety and the feeling of unsafety and unknowingness. I don't know what's going to happen. We don't know how our bodies will respond to the changes in our nutrition. Fat loss can be quick, fat loss can be slow, body adjusts a lot to changes, they send a lot of hunger signals, or they don't adjust and you don't feel hungry. All of this, how our bodies respond to our nutrition changes, is outside of our control. So we have to remove the focus of what is my body going to do? Take the focus away and instead focus it on something that they can control, like consistency, food choices, purposeful movement, sleep, recovery, stress management. Understand, your conversations and your coaching has to take their focus away from something that they can't control. How is my body reacting to the changes? And instead, you have to focus them on what they can control. That's crucial. But there's another point here that's important for you, because in a way, you can only control what you do as the coach. What do I mean? You can have the best plan, the best coaching, but if your client quits, then they quit and it's outside of your control. It doesn't mean you're a bad coach. It doesn't mean you could have said something different or put more effort into it. There's some things outside of our control. And that means how our clients behave and how our clients' bodies behave and respond. So that's important to understand. Some clients, regardless of what you say, will lose motivation and quit. You can do your best right now to prevent it by using the tips that I've shared above. that they don't throw in the towel and they use it as an opportunity to put in more effort and to get the results that they want. But if they're not ready to take on this challenge, if they're not ready to put more effort into it, because maybe the goal is not worth this effort, then there's nothing that you can do, and that's okay. This is a weird concept, but we as coaches have to detach ourselves from the results that our clients get. If we're invested and our worth as a coach is connected with their results, we will burn out. Please understand their frustration, how they respond to that. Are they stepping up or are they throwing in the towel? Only a very small part of this is in your control, and that is how you respond to what they are doing. You can have the perfect plan, you can have the perfect responses, and they still quit. It's important for me that you understand that. It's not your fault. Sometimes they're not ready, or the goal that they want is not worth the effort that they need to put in. With this gloomy topic out of the way, let's talk about some ways how you can even more improve the possibility that your client steps up to the challenge and actually get the results that they want. First, manage expectations as early as possible. So you can talk with your clients about the efforts that's going to require to reach their goals. If they want to lose 50 pounds in 3 months, you have to tell them you're going to train hard and you're going to eat very little and you're going to feel really, really poor most of the time. Because you have a huge goal, and that means you have to put in a huge amount of effort. Or if they want to lose so much, maybe single-digit body fat numbers, that's a huge goal. Tell them what is really required, what is really the effort that they need to reach this goal. If you tell them that as early as in the sales conversation, then they won't be surprised, because I told you, if you want to lose 50 pounds, it's going to take some time, it's going to take some effort. If you're not ready, I told you. So they cannot blame you, and they know what they sign up for. And then you have also the opportunity to discuss, hey, what challenges could we encounter throughout the coaching journey? Talk about them. What are potential signs of no progress, of challenges? And then you can even talk with them throughout the coaching journey. Okay, what is the best way if we encounter this challenge, including no results? Because it takes away the frustration and the annoyingness and the surprise to some degree, because you have already talked about this on the onset of the coaching journey. There will be bumps in the road, but we will be prepared. There's another step that you can take. Give space for errors. If you have big goals, give yourself a lot of time to figure it out. That's very often the problem that I see in coaches that I work with. They say, oh, I have this client, they need to lose 10 pounds in 5 days because they have this big competition. There's no space for errors. There's not even enough space for progress. So if you have an important goal, if you have maybe a deadline with your client, then make the space, make the time as long as possible for them to progress. If they have a deadline in 2 weeks and they reach their goal 2 weeks early, nobody will be mad at you. They will be mad if they have 2 weeks left and now they have to make progress for 4 weeks in 2 weeks. That's a problem. So give yourself space, give yourself the opportunity to make errors with your coaching plan, to respond how the body reacts. That's a crucial step. Managing expectations and giving yourself space for errors are two of the most helpful ways to talk with the client and to calm yourself down when you're going through these coaching processes to actually go and reach the goals. And there's the final part, and that's the grind. And what the grind is, when some of the initial excitement and some of the initial changes did their work, and now your clients are in a phase of doing the work every day. And the big drops in weight have stopped, the big changes in looks have stopped, and now it's the slow and everyday work. And very often this is accompanied with feelings of hunger, deprivation, fatigue, and so on and so on. But, and it's important to understand both for yourself and the client, this is the normal part of the weight loss journey, especially when you're working with more advanced clients or with clients that want advanced goals. There is going to be a time where you just do the same thing every day. But there's a really big upside to that. Because if you do everything the same day after day, you suddenly have time and space for other things again. You can work on posing, for example, or clients can work on their sleep, their recovery, their training, whatever it is. The grind, the time where you just have to do the work every day, is a time to refocus on other things. So they have actually reached what habit-based coaches always aim to do, that things work automatically. It's just now, every week I have to put in the effort and every week I get the results. And now it's the time that needs to take place to actually get where I want to. So when clients feel unmotivated because it's the same thing, say, hey, that's awesome. Now you have time to focus on something else. You have progressed with your nutrition so far that you don't have to change anything anymore. You get reliable progress every week and you get to your goals in this time that we discussed or that you need. Now focus on something else. That's awesome. So with all the emotional coaching, human behavior stuff out of the way, let's talk a little bit more about the coaching processes when low consistency is not the main issue anymore. So let's look at high consistency. So we have clients that are doing the work consistently, but haven't seen results yet, or results are not coming as quickly anymore. What can we do? And here it's important that we look at the bigger picture and we ask ourselves a couple of very important questions to decide how our next step could look like. First, we have to look at, have they lost weight before? Or is it something they have started with a plan, they've consistently done the plan, but haven't lost weight? That's important, that's a distinction. We have to look at consistency, because very often clients say they are consistent, but are they? Then deadlines play an important role in our coaching options. We look at high calories, so if they have still a lot of calories to work with, or what do we do when the clients have very little room with calories? They are already hungry very often. And these are the next steps we're going through now. a little bit more on the technical coaching side, what to do, what are our options. Have they lost weight? So if they have lost weight, but their progress has stopped, then wait for at least 4 weeks. As I've talked in the beginning, progress is often masked by all kinds of stuff. So we need time frames to make sure that there's actually no progress anymore. This changes, of course, if there's a time frame, if there's a deadline. If they don't have 4 weeks to spare, then we have to make a different decision. If they have lost weight before, their progress has stopped for 4 weeks, then we look at first consistency, and then when consistency is met, we can talk about the next steps, calories and deadlines. And the third scenario that we can talk about is they haven't lost weight before, so we have to make sure they're consistent. We'll talk about this in a second as well. Let's talk at the first step. They have lost weight before, but now their progress has stopped. What can we do in these 4 weeks? And the game is refocus. While we are waiting, we are not waiting, we are still working on improving consistency, improving other areas of our clients' life, like sleep, recovery, stress management, training intensity, you name it. This is the space while you're not entirely sure if progress has stopped, where you can focus on other things. You practice the idea of maintenance, of this maintenance frame. So you look at other areas, or maybe you look at food, and you still work on ways to improve consistency, to improve everything else, because that's going to be the key in maintenance. You will always work on keeping up the standards. Allow them to feel and process the frustration and use the coaching pointers that I've shared with you above. So the next step, they haven't lost weight. Are they consistent? Here's the issue with consistency. Awareness is a tricky thing. Many clients think they are consistent, but they forget all the little things. This little bite here, this little bit here. They thought they had spent, all day denying and not eating things, while at the same time eating all the time. So awareness is a tricky thing, and food journals are very helpful here, that they actually go and write down or document in a way what they're actually eating. And here accuracy is the next part. They may think they're working hard, but they're often just thinking about working hard instead of actually working hard or doing the work. So it's not that they're lying, that they purposely mislead you or whatever. Awareness and accuracy are things that you cannot really measure, that you cannot really track, but they are super important. So your client can think, their awareness is telling them, I'm thinking about eating less all the time, while forgetting or not registering that they're eating and they're not really making great food choices all the time. That's where the food journal is so important, or taking pictures, or all the other ways you can track food consistency. They are black and white, almost black and white, what they're doing. And then there's the part of expectations. They may think, oh, avoiding this croissant every morning will lead to 10 pounds of weight loss next week. So there's this thing, they think they're consistent enough, but the reality is they are not. But if you ask them, have you followed the plan? Yes, of course, I avoided the croissant every day while eating 2 muffins, whatever. So when they haven't lost weight, your first step is to check consistency. You cannot always rely on what your clients are reporting back to you, because it's just human brains are not super aware and don't track everything, especially if we really don't like what we've done in this moment where we ate the whole pint of ice cream. They haven't lost weight. We waited for weeks. We checked consistency. Now what about deadlines? If they have no deadlines, that's awesome. Or if they have a lot of time, make sure that they wait to make sure it's not just a bump in the road and it's not water retention or something else that slowed down their progress. That's where I come back to the idea of give yourself space for errors. If you have 4 weeks to make sure that there's actually no progress, your clients will be so much more at ease and patient because you have planned for this. There's a buffer. But what do we do when there's no deadline? Then it's important that we hit a certain rate of weight loss per week. What are our options? If calories are still high, then we have a couple of simple options. Reduce calories further, increase energy expenditure, do both, and first and foremost, ask the client what is their preferred choice. What is easier for them? What adjustment to their intake or to their movement is better? Keeping in mind, they haven't lost weight, they ideally had time to check it, and we have worked on consistency. I want to preface the next part with something important to understand. We are going to talk about advanced clients. These are clients that have lost weight, are not losing weight anymore. They are consistent, we double check that. And this is the important part, they don't have a lot of calories to work with anymore. And most people are not like that. They may think they're not eating enough. They may think they're only eating 1,000 calories. But if you check consistency thoroughly, you will notice that there's a lot more that's going in their mouth than they think. I'm really talking about physique athletes towards the end of their prep. Very advanced, very consistent, very determined. Having a client that has gone through all that high consistency and low calories for so long that they don't see progress anymore is pretty advanced. Understand that most clients are not like that. If you are here and you have a general pop client, you probably have missed one of the points before, like waiting long enough to see progress, to make sure that they're actually consistent, to understand how much calories they actually consume. They often can still reduce calories. So that's very important. These are advanced tactics for advanced clients. They have a deadline and they have low calories. So what can we do? A diet break, if it is within the time frame. And here again, the importance of having a long time for the prep, for the weight loss, is so crucial. So you can have diet breaks. And the goal of a diet break is to reduce the fatigue, to reduce the energy sucking experience of losing weight. So they have a little bit more mental freedom. They may even start to move a little bit more because these clients are training hard, working hard, and then probably lying on their couch just trying to recover. It's not that they're lazy, it's just low calories and hard work leads very often to less and less unpurposeful moving around doing something. And a diet break is a great way to offset some of these negative effects. These diet breaks, just from the relief of having to lose weight, can lead to weight loss. And that's sometimes strange, but this is what we often see with water retention. There's so much tension and stress in the body that they keep the water weight. But the moment you give them a diet break, the body relaxes and they have the weight loss because they drop a lot of the water weight. If they still see no changes after the diet break, you start to look at longer time frames. It's not just the daily calories anymore. You start to look at the overall calories over the week. You reduce overall calories over the week, but you introduce lower calorie days and refeed days. Over the week, the calories are lower than before, but you have days where you introduce refeeds, and very often I do 2 in a row instead of just 1 to actually give a little bit of recovery. And then you are lower with the calories again. So you have the idea of the calorie cycling with the purposeful idea that refeeds introduce a little bit of recovery, while overall the calories are lower. And remember, we're talking about advanced clients here. This is not something that you would usually do with general population clients. And then there's the grind. Sometimes it's just hard and weight loss is very, very little, especially towards the end of a prep. And it's just going through the agony, the pain, the hungriness, the hangriness. But we have advanced clients with ambitious goals, and that means a lot of effort. Diet breaks, you can think about them as deloads. And the purpose is to reduce some of the fatigue. As you know, dieting for a long time, strictly dieting for a long time, can take a toll on the body and on the mind. When you're constantly thinking about food and you're constantly thinking about your goals and you just at some point think, oh, is it really worth it? Allowing some time with higher energy intake, still with as good food as possible, and extra space for recovery can do a ton for a client that is really at the edge of being so fatigued that they cannot continue. They recover a little bit, and then they can go with a better focus and more energy back into the process. Thank you so much for watching. I've added a couple of videos as introductions to motivation interviewing, how a coaching session can be structured, and an example of how a coaching session like this could actually look like.